This is unlike any book launch or book tour I've ever even heard about. Not like I've been involved in a lot of these things, but how did this like multi-phase launch kind of come to be? What was the brainchild of this?
Well, we can start with Scott. He is the visionary behind the eventual platform that he will share more about. And this was a great opportunity to try it out with an author like myself and see how we can engage and elevate that fan experience.
I love it.
Yes, we devised eventual. The beginnings of it were May of 2020.
Oh, wow.
Um, I know, right in the beginning, and we were working with SG's head of marketing, Jenny Stiven, and we basically did a version of Comic Con
Mm,
virtually. Like there were 80 actors and like 120 vendors who were going to be at WonderCon, and then it suddenly just got pulled out from under. I mean, the world got pulled out from all of us, right?
yeah.
So we scrambled and quickly figured out in like 3 weeks a way to do it virtually, um, and that was a great proof of concept. We had 15,000 people come to that event, so we thought, okay, well, we can do this for other sorts of events. So then we did a film premiere, um, which was a Snoop Dogg Star Trek crazy movie called Unbelievable with 5 exclamation points on the end and 40 former Star Trek actors. So we premiered the movie on our very baby platform. We did fan talent meet and greets. So we actually had over a dozen of the cast members. We queued up fans to meet them and talk to them, and that worked really well. We had a full Q&A and panel with the filmmakers who were sitting in a room over there while we were masked over here in this room. But we had people from around the world attend, and it was like a 9-hour event. It was great.
Wow.
Then that led to doing the Emmys. We did the Emmys where the winners met the press after they won their trophy. So they get one of these sort of things.
Oh,
They get one of
cool.
these,
Very
and
cool.
then this is a Clio that we won, but they would get their Emmy and then meet the press afterwards. So we built a queuing and vetting system to bring fans and press in to meet talented people like SG Blaise here. So in the past year or so, we've been really transforming the platform to focus in on that aspect.
Yeah.
So we had about 30 events on the previous platform, but we did the game developer conference out of San Francisco, the first hybrid version ever. We did 4 events with the CEO of Netflix, and people coming in. So really big stuff. And now we're like, okay, for this kind of thing, like a virtual book tour where a talent right here in front of us, you see the books, can meet fans in real time and have a live interaction is, I think, a pretty unique thing. SG's been going to Comic Cons around the country, around the world, and meeting people in person, but you're only meeting the people that are there. So let's expand that to the entire galaxy, or our corner of it at least.
I love it. This is so there's 3 sessions, right, for this launch. Can you kind of explain what each one is going to entail?
Absolutely. So the first one is the origin of the dream, where we explore how, I came to be and started my journey as a writer. And then we dive a little bit into the writing process, world building. And then the third one, I believe, is fan engagement, where we actually talk to fans. And what I love about this event, Alexandra, is that it's fan driven, interactive, immersive. Everyone get to join. There is free downloadable goodies for the first 100 registered guests, and we see behind the scenes unique, exclusive tidbits. I'm so excited for this event.
Yeah, I think to just bolster up what we're going to get into, I think we're working with Charlie Capon, who has been hosting fan events with Gish, the greatest international scavenger hunt with Bisha Collins, and large, like 40,000 person virtual events, breaking Zoom. They broke Zoom like 3 times, which is awesome. So Charlie is a great moderator and has been diving into how SG became a writer and came here from Hungary, how, learning English, getting into fantasy. And so I think that's going to be really cool for the audience to actually figure out that origin story, the origin of the dream. Um, and then I think for anybody who's into this writing stuff or writing, however you do it, um, this way,
Whichever.
speaking, I don't even know now. We're writing right now, I guess. Um, so, so then they're going to get into how SSG created these 5 books in this massive, massive, literally galaxy of heroes, villains, epic stories, timelines, content. Because I think that's interesting for anybody. Like, how do you hold all that in your brain? How do you create these Bibles? I've seen them, hundreds of pages of documenting the lore, the rules of these worlds, and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's really cool. And then yes, the third event is I think during the first event, the second event, we're going to say, hey, fans, there's this big world out here and all this content. Show us your cosplay, show us your art, show us your fanfic based in the Last Lumenian, the Seven Galaxies. So then we'll get to pull people onto the stage using our vetting and queuing system. So
Cool.
we'll feature everybody in the actual video. So yeah, first 100 people get cool stuff. Come to all the events.
That's awesome. I'm so excited because I mean, it's funny that this is still kind of a new thing because SG, your series kind of lends itself specifically to something like this. Like each book takes place on a different planet. Like that's amazing world building. Like it's like you set it up for something like this, which is amazing. So book specific questions now because I've been waiting for this book. um are we in a new location for this fifth book?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, you get a little peek in the end of book 3 and a little peek at the end of book 4. And we're going to discover a lot of mysteries. You get to see more inside, a lot more of your favorite characters, what makes them tick, what's the motivation, what's happening. I am so excited. I can't wait to hear what you think about the next book, which is out on
Okay.
December 10th, I believe.
It's in my day planner. It's starred, it's color coded. I'm so excited. And then because you at San Diego Comic-Con you also launched a basically companion comic
Mhm.
for set in the same seven galaxies, right? So is there any news on when we're getting the next issue of our
Oh,
comic book?
we're definitely working on the next issue of the Mythical Hunters. Probably be going to launch next San Diego Comic Con.
Okay.
We're still figuring out the logistics, but I'm so excited to share this series. It is the origin story of a faction that you met in book 3, which we'll also get to see more in book 6.
Wow. So I know you're working on book 6. I know we're working on the second issue of this comic. It's starting to grow. The universe is starting to expand here. Is there anything else world building wise or release wise that is on the horizon that we're working on?
Well, Alexandra, we're working on a lot of things right now. We're trying to do video games or, app games or tabletop RPG. I don't have news yet, but we're working on a lot of expansion on the franchise. And you could see my little slip that I would love a video game as well.
Yeah.
So that's, take it easy, SG. You got to slow down.
I hear you though. We've been making games. I've been making games since third grade. So
Yeah.
They're the
I
best.
love
They're
it.
the best.
I feel like this would be a really good tabletop RPG too.
Yes.
Like that it also lends itself to that. So that would be really cool. I
Yeah.
Something that's really unique about this series besides it being so well built out like world building wise is each of the individual characters clearly have their own stories. Like it's very clear that you fleshed out fully their backstories before you decided what to give us, like little snidbits in each book. And I know when we talked at Comic-Con you mentioned that that sixth book is going to be a new perspective. Are you allowed to tell us who it is?
I think I have to wait and tease you a little
Okay.
bit later because it is a very fresh story.
Mm-hmm.
So I cannot spoil it yet, but it's gonna be a fan favorite. I can promise you that.
Awesome. Okay. All right. That's fine. That's not,
That's all you're gonna get, Alexandra.
yeah.
You just have to do it again, Alexandra, and then next spring I'll tell you more.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I can wait. So when it comes to putting together something of this magnitude, because 3 phases of a book launch is a lot, and involving all the fans and everything has got to be its own hill to climb. Um, what like because you said you had a vetting and queuing process and everything. What does that look like a little bit? How do people get themselves involved in this?
Great question. So first of all, you'll just go to eventual.live/sgblaze. And there's a very simple Shopify checkout to get tickets. As we said, the first 100 people get a special exclusive thing that SG is making for the fans. So you'll definitely want to try to sign up soon. The first event, I believe there's still some slots left in that first group. The second event, I think we're going to try to get that up tomorrow, so that when you attend the first one, you can get tickets for the second event. The easiest thing is we're going to send out an email to all those registrants. There's a link. You verify yourself. You can use your Gmail to authenticate or just email, and then we send you a code. Then boom, you go straight into the event. It's going to be not, I mean, it's very different than this, but you'll see there's a video player, there's a chat, and all of that. In the first and second event, we're not bringing fans on, but we'll have some special guests. In the third event, we're going to have a participate button there. So anybody who clicks that button when it's time for fans to participate will meet a producer backstage who makes sure your camera and mic are good to go and that you know how to behave on camera with SG, but also have fun. And then you get put into a queue, and then one by one, we'll bring those folks on stage. So Charlie, as moderator, will literally be just ushering folks in. They'll appear just like you see me next to you.
Right.
You'll see yourself on camera with SG and most likely Charlie, I'm sure. And then you'll have fun, whatever it is that you're doing as a fan, whether you're dressed up or and you just want to show off your amazing outfit, or if you want to read something you wrote or show some art, you'll have that time. I'm sure SG will high five people, and everyone will get a video snippet after the event.
Oh, that's super cool. I love that. So, because this is kind of like your Comic-Con booth was really interactive, I want to say. Like they had an art wall that people could
I
come
was there.
draw
I've
on.
been to all the Comic Cons.
It was amazing, and some people were
So
really
fun.
really talented and able to like kind of show off their skills and everything, and this feels exactly like that. Like you're trying to bridge the gap between creatives and fans, and I think that's really important because it makes us feel more connected to the story. The more
Oh,
we
my
put it
8-year-old daughter, who has not read the books yet, but literally was going around going, "Wow! Oh my gosh!" And I think met Leela, and literally as we're walking out, are they making a movie about the
oh,
Last Lumenian? And just straight up, just wonder because it's a really cool story from what I can tell, and the world is so cool, and
oh,
everybody. I know she's awesome. So
it's so cute. So you heard it, SG. We need a movie. It's
I
been
heard.
requested.
the fans are demanding it.
The
I hear.
fans are demanding
I'm
it.
gonna get on writing it now. If you
No, that's great. And we've talked a little bit about this, especially at your Comic-Con panel when you when you turned in pages for the comic, it was like 3 times as long as it needed to be. And I've called you an extremely prolific writer.
thank
But
you.
what I've identified is something that I have an issue with too. We just don't know how to not be working on something. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's
So,
like we just like being busy, but it also feels like this story it like lives inside of you. Like if you don't get it out, you're gonna explode. So that kind of feels like what it is to me. Like you just need to keep writing these characters in this world so that, you don't get chronic migraines all the time.
Or withdrawal. I like to say it's withdrawal if I don't get to have that chance to write these stories, to expand the world building, to keep thinking, what's the next layer? What's the next twist? What's the next Easter egg I can plant in this book that will
Yeah.
play out in the next book series or the next one following that? Because there are going to be 29 books coming your way, and that's just the first 3 series.
29. Oh my
29?
goodness.
I thought the Wheel of Time was long, but wow.
Right?
Okay.
Well, it's not
Now,
one series, it's 3 series altogether. And the
I
first one is
see.
the longest because that's the 13th book. Then we have a 9 book following that, and then a 7 book after that. And as
Wow.
I'm expanding the world, I get more and more ideas of we can do an origin story here. There is
Yeah.
currently 40 ideas based on the first 4 books that could be anywhere from comic book, graphic novel, video games, TV shows, movies. And I keep getting more and more because the world just gives itself with the characters to explore more and find out more about them.
Well, I think that's a tribute to just how well you wrote the world in the first place. Like, it wouldn't keep giving you ideas if you hadn't set it up to be so real, right? Like, sometimes we read fantasy books and the world building is very shallow. And, in her defense, Wheel of Time, these are shorter installments. I don't have to
Sure.
read 3,000
Have a
pages in
thousand,
one
yeah,
volume.
multiple thousands of pages.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's bite-sized pieces. We get bite-sized pieces of the world at a time, which
Correct.
I think is good because even like looking at your release schedule, like for how far apart the books have been, people have time to digest what they read and then have time to want more before you release something else, which is really nice. As opposed to some people who will not be named, that give us 4 or 5 books and then don't rate for 2 or 3 decades. That's too much time
Yeah.
because at this
Yes.
point we don't
By
even want it.
George, I think you've got it.
At this
Yeah.
point we don't even want it. Like, we're
No, we're
keep
good.
it to
We're all
yourself.
set.
Like,
Yep.
but you've paced this out really well, and being able to release like the comic book before this next release, and you're already working on book 6 and you have all this planned out. As someone who reads a lot of fantasy, it's nice to know that you have a plan that is this big and that you are already acting on it, because I'd rather go into a series knowing it's going to be finished
It will
than
be.
than be left hanging after I finish 5 or 6 books.
Absolutely. I would not do that to my readers. I'm an avid reader myself, and I know that feeling. I'm very impatient. I don't like waiting. So 1 year I figured is just long enough
Love it.
to appreciate and not too long that you get, what's happening. I forgot what's happening in the book.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Now, I feel like because you have all these ideas going on, I've got to ask, how do you keep yourself organized? If you've got 3 series and a comic book and all this stuff going on in your head, how do you keep everything straight in a way that makes it easier
mhm.
for you to actually write?
Alexandra, I keep myself organized by using digital tools. First one is Scrivener. Highly recommend the
Mhm.
program. It's an app. It's also a video. No, excuse me, writing program. That video game got stuck in my head. I swear. I'm already writing it in my head. And the best part, what I love about it, is that it has the folders, and I create project based Scrivener files. So there is the Last
Mhm,
Lumenian, and then each one is for the books. So I constantly grow the world building, and then I keep importing it into the new one.
mhm,
And then the other one is I'm using Campfire. It's a website
mhm.
based. I believe they have a desktop version, but I use the website based version of it where I create my characters, locations,
Wow.
magic system, culture, animals, timelines, everything and anything you can think of. And then I use these two constantly. One is more for the world building, the other one is more for the structure. And then I merge them, and that's when you get a book.
Wow. That's great. It looks like you've got a good system going on. I'd confuse myself. So
There's also big Google Docs
Yes.
of
yeah.
reference and all of those things that SG
Hundreds,
mentioned too.
hundreds
Too.
of pages. Thank you, Scott.
Hundreds of
Thank you for
pages.
reminding me, because that's and I like to joke my notes have notes, because you just have to keep writing things down. You have
Mhm.
to make sure that you create book based world building, and then you create series based world building, and then you try to leave room of what can you sprinkle here, but what can come back as an Easter egg later or an explanation later. It's
Mhm.
it's really is a lot of fun.
I love it. I've got to ask Scott, when you're organizing something like this, how much, because you mentioned big long Google Docs, but how much information do you get about the series or the upcoming book or whatever to help kind of structure this?
Uh, well, thankfully, I don't have to get my head all the way around to all of that. That's Charlie, who's really leading the charge on like what are we going to get into in terms of the subject matter. I
Mhm.
think when when I think of it, I think of like what's the arc of these events.
Mhm.
So it's we figure out how did all this begin? How does she do this? Like you've been asking about, right? And then let's celebrate these worlds that have been created by focusing on those fans who have been so inspired to create their own art from it. So
Mhm.
it's really that inception to growing to the full world that I think about. And then I also think about those interactive experiences and gamifying stuff and like SG said, like creating an interactive galaxy that you could tour through, which I love doing that sort of stuff. Should I tell her about the Prince stuff?
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay. So if you look on addisoninteractive.com at our work and you scroll down, at some point you will see Prince, the purple artist's face.
Mhm.
It looks like this back here. Um, that is literally we built a purple galaxy with Prince in 2008 and 9, and we envisioned having all the fans and people come together for communal experiences, whether it's watching Purple Rain, the movie together, and commenting and talking with each other, or just a virtual concert and fans can be there and be part of it.
Wow.
That's what we envisioned like 15 years ago. So it's super cool that we've now have a real purple galaxy um, with what at least one of the seven galaxies is purple. I don't know how many are actually purple,
They're all gonna be purple, Scott.
they're
You
all going to be purple. Okay, good. Okay, good.
perfect.
So we built planets that you could explore back
Oh my
in the
god.
day. So you could
Yeah.
go to planets, and each planet had an album and artwork and video on each planet. And then if you found where his head was, you got to go into his brain, and there was a 3D sphere of 450 pieces of content, like his memories. So it was super cool to do that back then, but I think now we're actually realizing that vision finally because the technology is
Mhm.
caught up and the
Yeah.
world changed with the pandemic to getting familiar with these tools. So I think the time is now, and I'm sad he's not here to see it, but he's up there, he's looking down. So
Yeah, that is
yeah,
so cool. Well, I am super excited about this experience. I have already signed up for the first one. I will be at all three. Um I can't wait. I've been waiting for this book for a while. I've been bugging SG every time I've seen her. I'm like, when do I get it? When can I read it? I want it right now. Like, so I'm glad we have a release date. I'm so glad that there's this just it feels like a big celebration of your writing because you know how much of a fan I am. So thank you guys for joining me and talking to me about this. I can't wait to share this experience with everybody.
Oh, thank you so much,
thank you.
Alexandra. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
She said it best. Thank you so much.